Lizzie Hartman, I'm so thankful we got to finally do this. It's been a couple months since I reached out and we were kind of going back and forth, and today's the day.
Today is the day. I actually was scrolling back through my emails 2 days ago, quite a ways, and I was like, "Oh, shoot, I never responded." So here we are.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think when you, or maybe when I originally reached out, I think you had just got back from Italy.
I
What
had,
was,
yes.
how did you get there?
Yeah, the culinary program, here in Fairbanks has
Okay.
a new branch over in Florence, a group of people that the students here connect with, and so Chef Sean, who runs that program, he had some great connections for me, so I went over there and checked out a few restaurants and got to see, where the students will go and learn, but check out Florence, so that was super cool.
Awesome. Yeah, it's really cool to be able to talk to someone that comes from that culinary world. It's something I haven't got the chance to do yet on the podcast. So I'm really excited about our conversation today. And like all my guests, you're in Alaska. You're doing your thing here in this state. And I think what's so cool about talking to you is that if someone has followed you for any amount of time on Instagram, is primarily where like you share. Um,
Mhm.
you love where you live. And why don't you go ahead and tell people where you live and what the temperature is today?
I live in Fairbanks, Alaska, where is it March? It's March and the
It's
sun
March.
is shining beautifully, but it's like minus 30 something right now where I'm at.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
not
and this
fun.
this time of year, it's kind of like, "Okay, I'm ready for those, 70, 80-degree days now."
Yeah, we're over it.
Um, yeah, and
And
I think go ahead.
this time of year it's normally warmer. This is just a random cold stretch, cold snap. It's colder than it usually is this time of year. So this is our time of year to get out and be skiing and doing all the fun winter activities that we haven't been able to do because it's been too cold and we're not able
Totally,
to.
totally. Um So I wanted to find out, like everyone's story in Alaska starts a little bit differently. You either were raised here, born and raised here, or you
Mhm.
came from somewhere else. So how did Alaska enter your life?
Yeah. When I was 15, my parents decided that we were going to Alaska for a year. We lived in central PA, Amish country, Pennsylvania.
Hmm.
Um, and they pulled me and my sister out of school and drove us in one truck all the way to Alaska. We were musicians, so there was a double bass in our truck,
Oh
those
my gosh.
massive,
Yeah,
massive
yeah.
instrument right in the middle between my sister and I, our guitars, violins, and then our entire house packed up in the back of the truck. My parents said we were just going to do a year. We were heartbroken, but of course my sister and I had no choice and we headed up to Alaska. We actually started in the peninsula. That's where we were for
Oh,
the first summer.
okay. And was this just like a dream of theirs that they were like, we have to give Alaska a chance?
A little bit, and then they both happened to get jobs up here easily, so
Hmm.
it just seemed like, a good fit for a while. My parents, I think, were ready to do something different. Yeah, and we
Hmm.
had family. We had family in Fairbanks, so that was
Oh,
also a
okay.
draw for my dad. Yes.
Okay. Was that your memories of that like a little not traumatic, but, like, cause I mean,
Traumatic.
15, if you're going to school and, like, excuse me, in your, like, teenage years, it's like you kind of
Yeah.
have your life together, right, as a
Yes.
15-year-old, and then
Yes.
to go and move, like, that had to be pretty rough, right?
It was really rough, and I really struggled with it. There was I loved being in Kenai in the summer, but as we made our way to Fairbanks and, fall sets in, winter sets in, I'm at a new school, I'm trying to survive. I
Yeah.
really struggled, and it was a dark season for me, which is
Mm.
which is a bummer, but that happens when you're 15 and your life totally changes.
Yeah. When do you feel like you turned a corner and kind of owned it? Like,
Yeah,
because your parents said they were giving it a year, right? So,
yeah.
did a year come and go, and then they were like, "All right, kids, like, we're staying," and then was it that point just again out of, "Well, I can't go anywhere else?" Like, how did that transition go for, like,
Yeah.
actually wanting to stay?
I turned 16 and life still hadn't gotten much better for me. And I remember talking to my dad one day and I was like, "Dad, I'm really struggling." And, at the time, mental health and teenagers, I don't think the
Mhm.
world had quite figured out that maybe I needed just
Right.
some I don't know. But my dad was like, "Lizzie, maybe if you would reach out and try to make a connection or build a community, maybe you'd have a better experience because there's probably other people your age that are struggling as well."
Hmm.
And I was like, "Oh, that makes a lot of sense." And so I found another girl my age who was going through the same feelings, same big emotional feelings. And I said, let's start a club. And we started a club called Closer Connections. It was for girls in our community who were younger than us that we could bring in our homes alongside us. And I was like, we're going to teach them how to cook. Did I know how to cook? Absolutely not. But it seemed doable.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where my cooking journey actually took off. And, obviously through that, it changed my whole life.
That is amazing, actually. I had no idea that's the way that that started. I was gonna ask you, like, what early influences you have or how did that start? And
Yeah.
that's really cool. It actually started from you trying to just connect with this new
Yeah.
home.
Yeah. I attended school my first year here and then moved into homeschooling. But Alaska has an incredible homeschool program,
Mhm.
and you're able to attend college classes through UAA or UAF while you're homeschooling. So that's how I found the culinary program and got into the culinary program. But it was because my cooking classes for my little girls club were going so badly that I knew I needed outside help. So that's when I enrolled with UAF and started their culinary program. I think I was 17 at the time.
That's awesome. Yeah, that
Yeah.
is really, really cool. All started from your dad being like, "Hey, think outside of your own, world
Yeah.
and try to connect with other people." And then, yeah, you used the culinary world to make that connection. That's pretty cool. How long is that program at UAF?
You can go in, you can do, a certificate in pastry and baking. You can do a certificate in culinary. You can combine it and do a year. You can do a full associate's program, which now can also send you to Italy for a semester. So
That's
they have a
awesome.
lot of different options, and I think you can probably even somehow turn that into a bachelor's as well. So yeah, you
Okay,
can
cool.
pick your path.
And then at what point did you say like, "Hey, I'm kind of good at this," or "I really like this. I can see a future doing this." Like, when did that start to connect?
Yeah, I did the classes in high school and that was good. I liked it. I was cooking for my church at the time. I was cooking for several other nonprofits, just, big batch meals to help people out. But nothing gourmet, nothing fancy. At the time, I decided I was going to go back to Pennsylvania when I turned 18, and I did 2 years of violin at a
Hmm,
school in PA, and then realized I loved it, but I had to get home.
hmm,
And when I got home, that's when I reconnected with the culinary program and was like, this is something I could do. Do I see myself being a chef? No, but this will help with all the fun activities that I do in my community. That was
hmm.
kind of the way I was looking at it at the time. I was also teaching school, so there was just a lot. There was a lot happening, and
Yeah,
culinary school just kind of fit into that for a season.
yeah. And how old are you at this time?
I when I came back, I think I was like 20, 21 when I did culinary
Okay.
school, maybe a little bit
Hmm.
younger, but
Okay.
yeah.
And at what point I think I mentioned to you earlier before we started recording,
Mhm.
one of my friends, when I first started this podcast, said that I needed to talk to you. He still lives in Fairbanks. Austin, if you're listening, thanks, buddy. We made it happen. But he said that I needed to talk to you. He's like, "Yeah, do you follow Alaska Lizzie on Instagram?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Yeah, man, she's from Fairbanks and she was on Master Chef. She was like a top 10 finalist." I was like, "What? From like Fairbanks of all places?" Like when I think of Fairbanks, I don't think of like the culinary anything.
Yeah,
Um,
you should, you
I
should.
should,
We
I
gotta fix
should.
that.
I'll tell you a quick story here in a little bit after I
Yeah.
finish this, but um, and so then, yeah, I look it up and I was like, "Holy smokes, yeah, you were like legit on Master Chef." Like, um, Gordon Ramsay was part of that whole thing, right? He was a judge, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Holy smokes, that's awesome!" And so, kind of started this whole, you know, process of trying to connect with you and hear more about your story. But so
Mhm.
when I first moved to Fairbanks, I started working at the hospital, and someone said, I asked, "Where's a good place? I like biscuits and gravy." That's like my thing. Anytime I go to a
Yeah.
new place and we have breakfast, I try to get biscuits and gravy. Just my breakfast pick in a new place. And sometimes it's amazing, sometimes it's subpar. And someone said, "Oh, you need to go to," I'm blanking on the name, but it's a diner on Airport Road. And I go in and they're like, "Smoking or non-smoking?" And I was like, "What year is it?"
You stepped back in time.
I stepped back in time, and then I quickly learned it didn't matter if you said smoking or, like, non-smoking because it still smells like smoke,
Yes.
and I had breakfast there. It was just it was not, it was not a good first impression of the culinary scene in Fairbanks, and now, I mean, I lived there for 8 years. There was other places that
Yeah.
I went to and found that were amazing, but that was, like, my first, like, taste of, like, this new place,
Oh,
and
that's
so
rough. I'm very
yeah,
sorry.
I know, but thank you. I mean, you're helping break that, you're helping break that stigma or that
Yeah.
trend, I guess, so but yes, going back to Master Chef.
Mhm.
Is this something that someone said, "Hey, you should apply to do this," or was it something that you had already been watching? How did that whole thing transpire?
Yeah, I love this story. This is my favorite story. I don't know if you heard of the butterfly effect. We're gonna walk
Yeah,
through the butterfly effect here.
perfect.
Um, I the first 10 years of my adulthood living in my home, we had a little TV. We only got the local stations. And the local station, obviously Fox is one of them. MasterChef is one of the shows on Fox. So I've been watching it for years because it was just on TV. Never ever once thought that I would be on it or try to be on it. I figured I'm in Alaska, it's too far. Um, Fast forward a few years into adulthood, my really awesome tight-knit friend group in Alaska all moved. That's what happens up
Mm,
here. Everyone moved,
yeah,
everyone left,
yeah,
and I found myself in a real once again, like when I was 15, I'm now like 25, and I find myself in a dark place.
mm,
Loneliness, depression, needing connection. And, I remember what my dad had said. Sometimes you gotta reach out. You've gotta go find the connection. So it's not always gonna come find you. And and I remember thinking, well, I could host a retreat for women here in Fairbanks and we could go hiking, we could go fishing, I can cook, I'll meet new friends. And then I was like, well, that's a great idea, but this is probably already happening.
mhm,
So I get on Instagram, I type in retreats for women in Alaska. The first one that pops up was called Soar and Summit. It was in Cooper Landing and it was a fly fishing women's retreat. So I signed up, but I also entered in to win a spot. They had like a giveaway they were doing.
mhm.
I won the giveaway.
Awesome.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So I went to the retreat and it was amazing. I met new friends, made connections that I am still very close with to this day. Had a great time and realized, wow, I could be cooking. I've got the experience. I've got the culinary school under my belt. I could be cooking for groups like this. So I reached out to the owner and I said, "Hey, would you consider letting me cook for your next one?" And she was like, we'll give you a shot." The next one was in
Mhm,
Fairbanks.
okay.
And so that was perfect. I was so excited. But of course, I go home and became incredibly nervous. Like, what did I just sign myself up for? This food is a lot more elevated than I'm used to doing. Oh, I'm so nervous. So I called Chef Sean at the culinary program, found out he was offering adult night classes, and I signed up for a gourmet cooking class. So this is, 6 or 7 years after culinary school, give or
Okay.
take. So I go back to culinary school, I take a night class, and I'm having so much fun. I'm having the best time. I'm learning a lot. And Chef Sean knows how important Instagram is to me. So he's taking all kinds of cool photos for my Instagram page. And I think the classes were on Tuesday night. Every Tuesday night, I'm doing a really fun post on my Instagram talking about what we made and how you can be a part of the classes as well.
Mm,
Well, through that, we did a halibut dish and I hashtagged it Alaska Chef. And a few days later, this is right before Thanksgiving, I had a DM from a casting director or casting person from LA. They said, "Hey, we saw this picture. You're cooking a halibut. You're in
mm,
culinary school. Have you ever thought of being on MasterChef? We'd love to have you." And that's how the ball began rolling.
Mm.
And of course, it was a whirlwind. It was a month and a half, and that entire month and a half was filled with me trying to learn all I could because I said yes.
Mhm. Yeah.
So a month and a half, I'm learning how to do all these things, and I'm picking out outfits, and I'm on the phone every day with people in LA, and I can't tell anybody, so that's stressful.
Oh,
Trying to get my life in order because I was getting ready to be gone for, who knows how long.
yeah.
So a month and a half later, I find myself standing in front of Gordon Ramsay cooking an Alaskan piece of halibut for him.
Yeah.
So
Wild. That is wild. What's awesome about that is, like, you were in the process of just like, "Hey, I need to become a better, like, more gourmet, add
Mhm.
add some more things to my toolbox." And then in the midst of that, you're like, "Hey, we're gonna throw that on the national stage now."
Everyone got to come on my learning journey with
Yeah,
me.
right. That is wild.
Yeah.
What was the length of time that you were, like, the recording and, like, or I guess, I don't know if it's, like, pre-production and all that stuff,
Yeah.
like, how long did you have to be in LA?
I was in LA for about 2.5 months, and then I
Yeah.
think everyone like, the people that made it all the way to the end, I think they were
Mhm.
there for about 3 months. So,
Wow.
yeah, I made it
Yeah.
close, but not quite.
Yeah, I know, but you still, I mean, the top 10 is pretty impressive. Did
Yeah.
you have a family at that time? Like, did you have kids or anything
Yeah.
like that at that point?
Yep, so I was married, and at the time, my husband and I had been married, I believe, about 7 years. We
Mm,
had 2 little boys, so I had like a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old at home, that
okay,
he was taking care of, but it was awesome. He got to come down and spend 3 days in LA, and he got to meet Gordon, he got to be on the first episode. We didn't get to connect a lot while he was there, but he's always been a big Gordon Ramsay fan, and, he grew up in
mm,
North Pole, Alaska. Kind
yeah,
of, for him to be in LA hanging out with Gordon,
yeah,
like, how cool was
right,
that?
yeah,
So that was really special, and it's one of my most, one of my most favorite memories.
yeah. And then were you like, as far as work goes, like, were you
Mhm.
working somewhere like as a chef in Fairbanks? Like, did you have to like put that on pause to go and do all this?
Yeah. So at the time, I was doing making pizza dough at Hungry Robot. Shout out to Randy
Nice.
and his
Let's
team at
go. That's
Hungry Robot.
awesome.
We love Hungry
Yeah.
Robot. Best gluten-free dough. So I was doing their gluten-free dough and their Detroit dough at the time. So I was doing that in the evenings. I was teaching school at a private school in the mornings and afternoons. And then on Wednesdays and a few other days, like teaching cooking classes for girls in
Gotcha.
Fairbanks. So
Wow.
and then
That's awesome.
taking the cooking classes so that I could cook at this retreat that was
Yeah.
gonna be coming up.
When when you get back from that experience, so after all the recording, I'm not sure how this goes. I'm assuming like you go and record everything and then it gets aired
Mhm.
after
Months
after
and
the
months
fact?
later.
Okay. And so you
We
got to probably
finished
watch with your family and friends and stuff
yes.
like that?
Yeah. I came home in February, and it aired in June. But what was super fun was at the time, I reached out to several friends that had small businesses. They opened up their businesses for me and my people. We started advertising watch parties, and each week it got bigger and bigger and bigger. So much fun. And we also used the watch parties as a way to raise money for different organizations. So the Rescue
Hmm.
Mission, the Forget Me Not Dog Rescue. So like different organizations we were able to give back to through that program or
That's
through those
awesome.
watch parties.
Yeah. Did you feel like like, did that launch your
Totally.
culinary career? Like, you were kind of just dabbling when
Yes.
you threw in your application and like, "Hey, I might be able
Mhm.
to start doing this, like, private chef catering type thing." And then you get, thrown onto the national stage and you come back to Fairbanks, Alaska, and everyone's like,
Mhm.
I mean, you're a superstar basically, like in the culinary world at that
Yeah.
point. So how did that experience kind of propel you forward, and what opportunities did that open up for you?
Yeah, it was just like a launching pad. I came home, and once people started hearing, that, "Oh, I'm on a show," the show starts airing, I started just the calls and emails started rolling in for different events, caterings, private chef. Um, So yeah, that happened really fast. And obviously, MasterChef is for home cooks.
Mhm,
It's not for people who are already really good, which I wasn't, and you see that on the show. There's a lot of learning, a lot of things I had never seen before, a lot of things I had never done before.
mhm,
So when I came home, I felt like I was thrown into, like, I have got to figure out how to do these things and do them fast, because people have an expectation. They think, "Oh, you've been on a cooking show, you know how to cook at this level, or you know how to do this," and I didn't.
mhm,
So talking to other chefs in the area and checking in at local restaurants, getting online and just learning as much as I can, reading as much as I could. I felt like I was just on this like really fast track to learn as much as possible in a short period of time, so that way
mhm.
I could offer that kind of service to the people of Fairbanks.
Wow. So, did the appointments start rolling in? Like, did you think like, "Oh, I have to, you know, go go work a normal job," or basically the opportunities there for you to start doing the private chef,
Yes,
thing as soon as you got back?
yep, I never went back. I never
Mm,
went back to the pizza place, which I miss. They
yeah.
were amazing. I
Mhm,
never went back to teaching. I
mhm.
just launched fully into this career,
That's awesome. That's so
which
cool.
is crazy. Never expected to be here.
Yeah, for the people that are creating, the people that are doing there's a lot of amazing
Yep.
creators in Alaska. I mean, we
Oh,
were
yeah.
talking briefly about Anne Marie. I just had her on last week.
Yes.
She has her own impact, um, or brings her own beauty to Alaska, in a
Yep.
different way. Um, but it makes me think like, "Hey, maybe I need to pay attention to my hashtag game a little bit more a little bit more
Yeah.
than I do because 'cause I'm a total rookie." I mean, I'm in, like, my rookie season of podcasting, but, yeah, it does make me think like, "Huh, maybe hashtags do matter."
No longer hashtags, caption. Your caption
Oh,
matters. So
caption
it's
matters.
yes,
Noted,
that's where it's at these days.
noted. One of the things I wanted to talk about, and it's a topic that I think I kinda wanna handle gently,
Yeah.
but I think it's something that is really important for listeners and just as human beings, and that's loss and that's grief.
Mhm.
Um, it intersects our lives what feels like unexpectedly every time. There is rarely a time when someone says they were ready to experience the loss of a loved one.
Mhm.
Um, the best that people can do usually is how they handle it during that time and what they do afterwards. And
Yeah.
you've been very open and about a experience with the loss of your husband a couple years
Mhm.
ago, and your process and your journey through grief and loss, and it's something that I think is not talked about often. It is something that we kind of give hints to. On social media, you get to see 90 seconds of someone's life, through
Yeah.
reels, and I did want to take the opportunity to just kind of lean into that just a little bit more, as much as you're comfortable with, and just kind of talk about what happened and just what you learned about yourself and the community that you have up there in Fairbanks through that experience.
Yeah. Well, my husband passed away almost 2.5 years ago now, in a motorcycle accident here in town. Um, and you're right, loss is never easy. It's never expected. I mean, sometimes it is, but in this case, it wasn't. I had never lost anyone close to me before, and loss has always been something that I've been very afraid of,
Mhm,
because your life just kind of stops. Yeah. What I learned through the whole experience is that joy and grief can coexist, and that you truly learn who your community is when times like that happen, when things like that happen. And Blaine was a big part of the Fairbanks community. He served in different nonprofits, church, work, friendships, his motorcycle group. Big personality, loved people. Um, so obviously it was, that, and then my notoriety through the show, through Instagram, it became a much bigger situation.
mhm,
And in the days after his death, just experiencing the community of Fairbanks and really the whole state of Alaska. The outreach, the connection, the people that just poured into me and my family was unreal. Within 2 days of him passing away, we had over 30 people who had flown, dropped everything, and flown to Fairbanks to be with us, and
Hmm.
that's amazing, but with that, comes food, lodging, there's all kinds of things that obviously I can't think about, our families can't think about, and the community of Fairbanks just swooped in and said, "We've got you all. We're gonna carry you guys through this." So,
Hmm.
restaurants donating meals, people donating places to stay, vehicles showing up that we were able to use, um, and I still to this day, I scroll through my I tried to take pictures, and I told everyone in my circle, I said, "Take pictures of everything, not so that we can post it, but so that I can remember because obviously my brain was not functioning, and I wanted to know what all these different people were doing. And so to
Hmm.
look back and be like, "Wow, my community poured out for me." I remember at one point, the florist, she had been delivering flowers every day for about 2 weeks. We had over sixty flower arrangements in the
Hmm.
church at one point, and she said, "Can someone tell me what's going on?" She's like, "I need to know, who passed or what happened because I think they were loved, and
Hmm.
I think you all are loved." So there was just so much community that I sensed and felt during that time. And also, and I know we'll probably talk about this later, but Chena Camp, my personal project, we were just starting the construction on it during that summer. My husband was a huge part of that. Um, and the the week he passed away, we were putting in the water lines, and
Hmm.
that's a big deal. We had rented equipment, we had helpers, like, this was all lined up, and you couldn't
Hmm.
just stop. So I remember, he passed away, and the next day, by mid-afternoon, we had to all show up and go to
Hmm.
work, which obviously was horrendous and awful, but also we were doing it with community. People were
Hmm.
walking alongside us out of here. We were doing this in honor of Blaine. He wanted this project. He was a part of this project. And there was just such an air of reverence and community and love. Um, We've always appreciated the way Alaska Native funerals are held. My dad is a pastor, so we've been a part of them all over the state, in villages, and they build a casket, they decorate the casket, that's a big part of their healing, and they do it all
Hmm.
together while eating and making music, and, my husband and I had always said, "If something happens to us, we want that. That's the
Hmm.
tradition we would like." And so about a week after he had passed away, there was a group of men that were here, helping us with the Chena Camp project. They built the casket, and then for an entire evening, the community of Fairbanks just all gathered into my parents' church. There wasn't room anywhere for an
Hmm.
extra person, and we painted. There was an artist that flew up from Anchorage to help. There was another artist from here in town, and they showed people how to paint flowers and mountains, and so we painted the casket. I play music, my whole family plays music, all my friends, so we all just play music all night long. There were several chefs in town that brought
Hmm.
food, and this all happened organically. None of this was,
Yeah.
planned or it
Hmm.
just all the pieces just fell into place, and when I look back at my phone and I'm seeing these photos and I'm watching my little boys paint my husband's casket, I mean, talk about healing.
Hmm.
Like, that is just, it's so hard to understand death, but to be able to just live in that moment, to grieve openly, to heal alongside community, I just think is so powerful. And while I never wish that we had that experience, I'm grateful that we were able to walk it in the way that we were, alongside of Fairbanks.
Yeah. That's amazing. And I mean, tragic, but your ability to find the good in that, I think, speaks volumes. It's definitely something that has come through, um, just like just through the social media aspect of it. I think it was
Mhm.
the community aspect was so obvious. Watching, going through those reels and seeing the community come together. How much was that? How much was already established as far as that community that you had built and that group of friends? And then versus how much did it grow? Were these people that you were already kind of Like, was it already an established community, or did you
Yeah.
just find out, like, people from all over the place coming out of the woodwork to be able to support you?
Um, a little bit of both, you know, and this is kind of going back to the beginning of my story, back when I was a teenager and doing culinary school. I really loved small businesses and I loved
Mhm.
connecting with small businesses. So I would bake things in culinary school. My parents are tired of eating cake. And I would show up at a small business downtown. I'd knock on the door. I'd be like, hey, is the manager here? I'd give them cupcakes. I'd be like, tell me your story. And that led into me doing social media influencer stuff before it was even a thing here in Fairbanks.
Mm,
It just kind of happened. And I would
mhm,
post about these small businesses on Instagram, where they were going to be, what they were selling. And so I started building my community through that. So I have all of, these small business people that I have great relationships with and great friendships with. And then also, my dad is a pastor. So the church community, we work with kids in Fairbanks. And so huge network of children and families that we've poured into for the last 15 years.
mm,
My husband as well. And and then, my culinary side. So like there was just all these different um intersections of community that
yeah,
crossed when that happened.
okay, wow. What is your advice to someone that may be in the thick of it now? You know, you experience, those first couple days, and it's just
Mhm.
terrible, there's no describing it, and then even after the fact, and this is, I mean, just speaking from my own experiences with loss, and my wife calls it grief ambushes. You'll just be going about your day, your life, or whatever, and all of a sudden you
Yeah.
can just get ambushed by these emotions, and sometimes you can't even place them or find the root of them until
Yeah.
afterwards. But what is your advice, like going through that time, going through that still now to today? What is your advice to someone that may be experiencing that?
The grief ambushes are real. I had one the other day sitting in the car, and it's just like out of nowhere, it just hits you, a smell or a look or like a something you drive by, and you're just like, "Wow," and it happens all over again, in your mind. Um, Learning how to sit with it, to
Hmm.
just sit in the memory, to sit in the sadness, to sit in the grief, and allow yourself to feel. There was those first couple weeks where you just kinda wanna shove it all away, but that doesn't help. So to just sit in the discomfort and then allow yourself to be served, allow your community to serve you, allow the people, um, to show you love. There was many times in the weeks after he passed away where I so desperately wanted to push the people away, push the things away, but that wasn't gonna help me heal. And what helped me, and I'm still healing, but, like, what helped was just allowing people in, allowing people to serve, allowing people to make a connection. Um, but yeah, just sitting in
Hmm.
that discomfort is hard, but the most healing thing that I can do.
Hmm. That's great advice, and I would agree. I would agree with that as well. One of the things that you had was a video from your husband telling you to keep going, don't quit, follow the
Yeah.
dream. What a special thing to just propel you forward and to look at the other side of that loss and to see what you're doing now. Um, I mean, it is really special to be able
Yeah.
to have that uh, pushing you forward. Do you want to talk about how those words have motivated you to this point?
Yeah, well, what's funny, or what's not funny, but what's great about that is when he sent me that voice memo, or it was a voicemail or video, I don't remember. It was a video. Um, when he was down and I was filming MasterChef, it was still during COVID, was still a thing. It had kind of resurfaced again in LA. So we weren't allowed to hang out after we filmed. He had to go to his
Mm.
hotel room. I had to go to mine.
Oh, wow.
And he was like really, it was an emotional day for him, for all of us.
Yeah.
And he sent me that voice note and he was, just saying, hey, I don't know how long you're going to be here, but I want you, do the best you can. And when you come home, we're going to be waiting for you and proud of you no matter what happened. And, um, but I never he never sent me the video. He just recorded
Mhm.
it on his phone. And so, obviously, after he passed away and I had his phone and I was going through his videos, I saw it and I was like, "Oh, I wonder what this was." And I played it. And it was incredible to see how everything that he said then lined up for now, right when I needed it the most. Um, it's just really, really special. And just knowing that I had his blessing to move forward, I had his blessing to go back to work. Um, that's hard to make that decision to be like, I'm I'm gonna leave my kids, I'm gonna leave Fairbanks, I'm gonna go take these jobs that will give me the money so that I can provide for my family. That's a rough decision to make, and not a lot of people agree or maybe see it the same way, but I knew that I had Blaine's blessing on that,
Mhm.
and that was important to me, and that gave me the motivation, and the encouragement to go get it done and dig
Mhm.
in and work harder, and that's what I needed.
Yeah. It's so special. And I think just again from just the outsider's perspective looking at your story, you handled it, and what I'm learning is true Lizzie fashion, and that's when you feel down and alone to give back. And
Yes.
do you want to talk about those opportunities that you had? That one of the ones that comes to mind is through the Polar Express. Um,
Yes.
you know, like go ahead and just share those ways that you found connect or found your people again after during a really hard time of feeling alone or loss.
Yeah. I love that you pointed that out. I don't think many people have acknowledged that, but it is truly like it, and I keep circling back to it in my life. When you're in your lowest moments is when you have to dig a little deeper, is when you reach out, is when you have to build that bridge for community and find that connection. Um but one of the ways that we've done that the last 2 years is I want my kids to know that they're not the only one that has ever lost a parent. There is many kids in this town who are experiencing that. And I want them to have friends who have walked the same path. And so my way of facilitating that was we do these small business bus rides. My dad has a bus, we decorate it, we go connect with small businesses. It's a way for people to make friends and all the things. But this one in particular, we did a Polar Express. So it was right before Christmas. Kids dressed up in their PJs. I reached out on a Facebook group. Hey, who has lost a parent, a grandpa, or a grandma, or a sibling? And we ended up with about 30 people on the bus and lots
Mm,
of little kids. And so, yeah, it was awesome. The Summers in Alaska, a YouTube family here, they help
mm,
sponsor it.
okay,
And they always come along, do a hot chocolate bar. They help promote it. Costco, the first year, donated all the Christmas presents, which was really cool.
that's
And then there was a
awesome.
few other small businesses that jumped in and helped out. But we've done that now 2 years in a row, and it's just so special. At the end of it, we either light this year we lit candles inside because it was just too cold to go outside.
Mm,
Um, but we just do something to remember our loved one, but we try to do it in a happy way, a way that, kids can connect with and enjoy. So it's been really powerful, and I hope to, in the future, do more events for kids and families who are walking in the same journey.
yeah, and just such a cool um, thing that you have kind of it's been your life has been marked by this, different periods of your life of feeling alone and reaching out to community or in difficult times letting people in. I think the hard part is that you feel like what's safe is to keep everyone away. I
Mhm.
think it in your mind at least, whenever you go through tough times, it's like, I will be if it's just me, everything will be okay. And
Yeah,
really, it's like realizing that connection with other people is what makes you not feel alone because other people are experiencing the same things that you are.
yeah,
Um, and so, such a cool reaction to that, those type of events in your life, Lizzie. And I think that it is solid advice for anyone listening to be able to react that way in those times. So, thank you so much for
mm,
sharing just that part of your life with
yeah,
us. So meaningful, so genuine, and definitely something that people can take away with for sure. One of the things that was on your website that jumped out to me, and I don't even know if this is like a an official slogan or anything like that, but it says, "Eat well, do good, stay golden." Do you remember that? Is that like
I do, I do. Um,
it kinda is a good summary, I think,
it
for
really
for
is.
what you're up to, yeah. I mean, it lets me know what you're all about for sure.
Yeah.
One of those aspects, the do good, you touched on it briefly through Chini
Mhm.
Camp. Do you wanna talk
Yeah,
about that, kinda what the original intent was and how that's evolved?
yeah. Very much in its evolution. We we purchased a property a couple years ago. It was originally owned by the rescue mission, and they were trying to do well with it, and they had to let it go. They sold it to us. Um, with the intent that obviously we have to pay the bills, but what are ways that you can give back through this property? So we've been navigating that, and
Mhm.
obviously construction was halted for a while, but we're back on track. We are finishing. It's 10 cabins and a lodge building.
Okay.
Um, but the overarching goal, the end goal, also Fairbanks needs another place to host retreats, host events, cabins for tourists and guests to stay at. But also, we need another space that nonprofits can utilize for their events or what they're doing. When the typhoon happened here in Alaska a
Oh,
few months ago,
yeah.
there was people that needed housing immediately, so we were able to help with the transitional housing until they were able to find their permanent spots. So to be able to help when things like that come along, I my group of teen girls that I've been cooking with since I was 15, obviously it's different girls now, but like that
Yeah.
same group, that same closer
Mhm.
connection mindset group, we try to bring them out here as often as we can and do free cooking classes with them, connect with them. My future goal is that we're able to host, quite a few kids cooking camps, kids cooking classes. I want people to be able to have what I wanted as a kid, what I needed as a teen, what I found through the UAF cooking program. I also want to be able to provide that. So just to be a place where people can connect, a safe place, a happy place. I try to host a lot of events because connection is so important. So,
Mhm.
what's a way that people can come in and make new friends?
Mhm.
One of the best parts of my life, one of the highlights of my life was being at an event recently, a large Fairbanks event here in town. And I saw this group of 4 or 5 women, and they were lovely. They were all talking and laughing. And I'm very extroverted. I walked by and I was like, hey, how do I get in on this? You guys look like a great group of friends. And they were like, Lizzie, you don't remember us? They said, we all met at one of your events like a year ago. None of us knew each other, but we are
Hmm.
now best friends who do stuff together every week. And I was like, that
That
just filled my cup right up.
that's really cool.
That's my goal in life is to be able to help people make the connections they need to love
Yeah.
living in Fairbanks, love living in Alaska. And
Yeah.
connections are important for that. So,
Totally. You are a connector
yeah.
for sure. Um, you love Alaska. There is you still have the sense of wonder when you look at this state, especially the places that you get to go. You've been all over the place. We were just talking about one of the places that you get the opportunity to go is the Sheldon Chalet in Denali
Yeah.
National Park. I'd never heard of that place. Looked it up, and it is mind blowing. Um, I mean, the whole process of you getting there by
Yeah.
helicopter and just the scenery is unreal. Do you wanna talk about you can talk about that place specifically and that
Yeah.
opportunity that you have to cook there, but, um, and just some of the other places that you've been able to see across the state.
Oh, it's the best topic. It's my favorite topic. And I just never as a little girl dreamed that I would get to see all of this and have the opportunity to get paid to see all of this. But Sheldon Chalet is one of the best places to work. It's amazing. To be able to set my cutting board on the counter and look directly at Denali while I'm cooking. I mean, the inspiration is unreal. But it is a process. I fly into Anchorage, I do my shopping in Anchorage, I drive to Talkeetna, and depending on weather, sometimes we take helicopters in, but more often we use a plane from Talkeetna Air Service, and we have to load everything up and land on the glacier and then hike it into the chalet, which is a
Huh.
process. you're having to hike up and then across the ridge and then into the
Wow.
chalet, and thankfully there's a lot of amazing guides on the team that help with that process.
Hmm.
Because I usually have about 25 large grocery bags because
Jeez.
once you're there, that's it. You don't have a grocery store or an option um for to get anything else.
Yeah, if you forgot the
So
milk, you're out of luck.
you are out of luck. One time I had a sled full of eggs and crab legs that went over the ledge
Oh.
and got lost in a crevasse. And I was thinking, I am here for a week. These people like breakfast. What am I gonna eat? I don't have any eggs. Those were all my eggs. And thankfully the guides were like, "Oh, we've always wanted to try that route. We'll go see if we can get it out." And so I remember watching them from the deck and seeing them, way out across, and they're like climbing down into this crevasse, and they rescued my sled, and only 2 eggs were broken.
Oh,
So
what? That's
and it dropped a
amazing.
really long ways.
Oh my gosh.
Um, but yeah, it's a fun place to be super creative because you have to be. The guest might walk in and say, "Hey, we would like this, this, and this." If you don't have it, you gotta figure out a way to make it, and I absolutely love the challenge of that. That is so much fun.
Hmm.
But it's just an incredible place. The family history there, the story behind how the chalet came to be. Like, we don't have that kind of time today, but you need to research it, study it. Wager with the Wind was a book that was written by Don Sheldon, and it talks about how he homesteaded the property there in Denali on the Ruth Glacier, and it's incredible what the family is doing with it today.
I'll look it up. Yeah, I'll look it
Yeah.
up for sure. You brought up something that we haven't really talked about yet, and that is your actual like style of cooking. And
Hmm.
you said earlier that you wanted to be an artist. I don't know if this was before we recorded or not, but
Yeah.
that you wanted to be an artist, and now you kind of get to express that through food and what you create. And so, when I think about the culinary world, sometimes I think like, oh, some people are like bakers and like have like the or pastry chefs, and then you have like maybe regular chefs. I don't know. Like I'm not familiar with the terminology, but it seems like you kind of do a little bit of everything. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, if you want to talk about like how your style, like how your style has evolved, and when people ask like, "Oh, what kind of food do you cook?" Like, what do you usually tell them?
Yeah. Well, I always wanted to be an artist. Growing up, I took all the art classes and it never looked right. I tried so hard. My parents spent so much money for me painting and drawing, chalk, clay, all the things. And I just had to find the right medium. And as an adult, I have found the medium of cooking, and now the kitchen is my gallery. Um, so when I think of what is my style, how much color can I get onto one plate? How creative can it look? How bizarre can the idea be? I love baking, and obviously baking was kind of how I began this process. So desserts will always be my favorite.
Mm,
But learning how to cook all the different things, especially Alaskan seafood, plants, berries. If it's Alaskan and I can cook with it, like that's a real win. How can I elevate Alaskan ingredients, which are already the most elevated, I think?
mm.
But how can I make it exciting, and how can I make my guests just be like, "Oh my word, this is like a piece of art." Like that's what I'm going for.
Yeah, well, you're nailing it for sure. Because like, if you
Thank
just take
you.
a couple seconds to like scroll through your Instagram, super vibrant, beautiful. They do look like works of art. It just so happens that you can eat them, which is
Yes.
nice. Um,
Yes.
what other places have you been to? Yeah, I know you mentioned you got to go to Southeast on a yacht and do some cooking
Yeah.
there, right? So do you want to explain that?
Um, Jeff Gorton, Alaska Luxury Cruises, shout out to you guys. He does an amazing he's got this epic yacht that I love, and he has this amazing tour, Juneau, St. Petersburg, Wrangell, all those different places down there,
Hmm.
and, so I've worked for him for 2 years now, and he's able to have, like, about ten guests on the boat, and then you're just every day, you're seeing whales and all kinds of let's just put it this way, the client that I was with on the boat last year, we were on our 8th day. The trip was over, and she said, "I don't think I could take any more. My eyes are just splendored out." Like, that's how incredible it is. It's one of my favorite places to cook
Mm,
because, out my window, once again, I'm at my sink washing dishes and I'm seeing like sea otters and bear and mountains, and it doesn't end, and it's
yeah.
unreal. And I just every day I'm on the boat, I'm like, I am so blessed. This is incredible. How is this my life? And
Mm.
it's amazing to be able to take inspiration. I think it's super fun to be able to be like, okay, here's where we're going today. How can I take inspiration from this area? How can the plate look like where we're docked tonight? Um, yeah, yeah.
That is the mind of an artist, 100%. That is really cool. Do you find that you have certain ingredients that are reoccurring in what you make? I assume when people, go to, Sheldon Chalet, or they go, on like this yacht experience, this like luxury cruise type thing, they're trying to like, I want to experience Alaska, on my plate. What are the
Yeah.
things that usually come up, main courses or desserts or stuff like that that you try to bring that to life for them?
Yeah. Well, at the chalet, they're trying to as much local seafood as we can get. So we start with a huge extravaganza of seafood. Crab, halibut, king salmon, oysters, scallops, everything. And it's just when they walk into the chalet, that's what they see. This just pile of beautiful
Mhm.
Alaskan food. Um but then obviously I'm always taking sugar. Sugar, I can do anything with sugar and egg whites, and I can create any sort of beautiful dessert with that. So if I have sugar, egg whites, and heavy whipping cream, my life will be fine.
Nice.
Um, but when we're on the boat, what's fun is when it's in season, when it lines up correctly, we're catching. We're catching our food.
Oh,
We are processing it in front of the guest. The guests are allowed to be a part of it, which is super fun. And then we're cooking it right there for them. So whether if it's, the right season like king crab or whether, the shrimp, different things like that. So that's always super fun. But yeah, I think my main ingredients that I always have are sugar, egg whites, and heavy whipping cream. So
that's awesome.
yeah.
Okay, so now flipping the script a little bit, what is your most unglamorous meal that you're like, I am like a legit chef and I find so much comfort and simplicity in this thing. What's your go-to?
Fairbanks has the best Thai food in the world. I don't know if you've heard or not. We
As a what?
have Fairbanks has the best Thai food in the world, other than
Oh,
Thailand,
yeah.
of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
So pad Thai, and yeah, I'm obsessed. I probably order it if I can. Don't tell anybody this, but like twice a week. It is my comfort food. Whenever I've cooked, like when I'm coming home from the chalet or I'm coming home from the boat or I've cooked a big week here at Sheena Camp, the next night is Thai night, and no one can tell me otherwise.
That's
That's where
awesome.
it's at for me.
That's awesome. So what is like on the horizon for you as you continue on this culinary journey? What are some things that you're excited about that are upcoming, or maybe things that you're going to continue to do with some new excitement?
Yeah, well, some of the things I can't talk about, which is a
Okay.
bummer because they're so exciting.
Yeah. All
I've
right.
got some really fun events and people that I will be cooking for this coming summer, which I'll be so excited to put. So follow on Instagram so you can see who they
Yeah.
are.
Sweet.
But I'm really excited that a lot of my work has been taking me to like Anchorage recently and cooking for clients in Anchorage. It's been fun to get to know Anchorage as a city, to get to know the small businesses, the chefs, the vendors. And so I've had a lot of clients from there. And this summer I am there quite a bit for work, which is really exciting to me. Um so yeah, a lot of I'm leaning into the travel, leaning into the cooking everywhere.
Mhm.
Um, what is really neat about, places like the chalet or the yacht is you meet these awesome clients and then they like you and then they bring you on their family vacations or wherever they're going to be so that you can cook for them. Because when you find a chef that vibes for you, it's good to keep them in your back pocket.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of fun stuff coming up like that over the next year. But also, really focusing on Sheena Camp, really focusing I'm getting ready to launch a series of cooking retreats at Sheena Camp that I'm really excited about. So, yeah. Yeah, a lot of good things happening, and I love the life that I'm living.
That's awesome. That's the best kind of life to live.
Agreed.
It's always a pleasure to talk to people on this show, and I feel like I do it every week now, where I talk to people and they just tell me I've never been more in line with what I'm supposed to do. And that is
Yes.
such a beautiful place to find yourself in. And the more that I talk to people like you, and gosh, I think about like the last month of episodes I've done and speaking with people that have just found their true calling in life and they're leaning into it and opportunities are opening up for them. And not to say that it's without any fear or risk or
Mhm.
hesitation, but there's so much to be found, in yourself and then so much to give the world when you're actually leaning into that, and so
Yeah.
that's what I'm hearing from you. It's really cool to be able to, kinda hear that play out in real time with you, more than just, like, the 90-second reels like we were talking about before,
Yeah.
but can people still, book you? Like, if people are like, "Hey, I want Lizzie to come and cook for my event or
Totally.
for my, whatever it is," how do they go about doing that? And how much time do
Um
you need in advance?
I you know, obviously time in advance is great, but I don't work in advance at all. So when I get a message from someone that's like, "Hey, we've got a birthday next weekend. What are the chances you can fly to Juneau?" I'm like, "I'm on it." So if my schedule allows,
Yeah.
I'm all about last minute bookings. But my email, alaska.lizzie@outlook.com is the best place because my mom helps me check my email because sometimes things get lost. But also Instagram. People reach out to me on Instagram, and I try to check my DMs frequently. Um, yeah, those are the 2 places, and I love cooking for families. If I can make your event special, if I can make, I've done a lot of people. This is, peak Aurora season here in
Mhm.
Fairbanks, so people are coming into Airbnbs, but, the way the flights are structured, they're getting in, really late. There's nowhere open, they're not able to get dinner. So I've started a thing where I'll come in and set up your Airbnb fridge for you. Let me make you a few gourmet meals,
Nice.
put them in there ready to go. Let me get your charcuterie board ready. That way when you show up, you can just relax and you don't have to stress about trying to find somewhere at 11 o'clock at night in Fairbanks in the winter, which isn't gonna happen, so
Yeah, that is a great
yeah.
idea. That's, like, coming in clutch for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so one of the last things we have to talk about because it's March and Iditarod is underway. One of the things I learned
Yes.
about you is that you were kind of like an Iditarod fangirl, or at least mushing fangirl for sure.
Yes, I'm a couch musher all the way. But, I feel like it was a little bit. So this goes back to being on MasterChef. I was eliminated over some king crab hush puppies, which happens. And I just, I wasn't heartbroken. I was bummed, but I never even expected to make it to top 10. So I felt
Mhm,
really blessed, really, really happy. But I do remember coming home and like I had been living on such a high for like the last 3 or 4 months. And that just dropped. And once again, I felt like I've got to do something.
mhm.
I need to find a way to make this feel better for me. So I talked to my husband and I was like, Iditarod is next week. Let's fly to Anchorage. Let's go interview mushers. Mushers need help with their social media.
Yeah,
I can do something here. So we flew down to Anchorage and I just spent the day at the ceremonial start finding mushers, talking to them, taking pictures for them on my phone, posting about them. And then through that, I was able to find brand sponsorships that were able to send me to Nome 10 days later and I was able to be there, do the same thing, interview, connect, help mushers, share their story. I wanted the world to have a better idea of what dog mushing was.
mhm,
And this was a couple of years ago. So I feel like it's really changed in a good way in the last couple years. So then that, translated into other dog races. I love the Yukon Quest. That's my favorite race, the one that's here out of Fairbanks.
mhm.
Um, but just to promote and advocate for mushers and their dogs, I feel like there's a lot of negative stuff online, and I just wanna be a person that's like, "Hey, they're actually it's incredible. What they're doing is amazing. And this year I haven't been as involved. Life has been really busy, but what I've seen is an amazing number of influencers come in and fill that gap. And it's been fun to watch them through social media. But I am headed to Shaktoolik and Nome hopefully at the end of this week and look forward to connecting once again.
Yeah, that's awesome. It'll be great. I saw, I think, is it Jesse Holmes? Is that who won
Yeah.
last year? So, and
Yeah.
he's killing it again this season. I
Yep.
think
I'm
he
a
was the
big
first
Jesse
one.
fan. So
Yeah.
I'm pulling for him this year.
Yeah. I just talked with Robert Forto. He has
Yeah.
a mushing podcast, really
Yes.
involved in that world. Yesterday was really cool to just tap into his expertise and knowledge of Iditarod.
Mhm.
And he's just been involved with it for so long. Got to ask him some really great questions and get some insight from him for sure.
Oh, cool.
Um, my family just went we went to the start this year, our very first one is for as long as we lived in
Awesome.
Alaska, and, yeah, the kids loved it. I did the reindeer run, like, running with the reindeer
Nice.
thing that evening, and
That's on my bucket list. I've
that
gotta
was
do
an
that someday.
experience. Yeah, it was kinda cold, it was at, like, 18 degrees, but you're a Fairbanks girl, you'll be just fine.
Yes, yes.
Um what places in Alaska just a few more things here, but what places in Alaska you got to see a lot of beautiful places? Is there any place in the state where you're like, "I have to go and either visit or cook or be a part of this place?" Does anything come to mind
That I haven't been to yet?
that you haven't been to yet?
Ooh, man, it's
I mean,
really
you've been to a
bad
lot
when
of
you
re you've
you've
been to
checked a lot of
I
them
was
off
gonna
the
say,
bucket
you've checked
list.
a lot
You
of
know,
boxes.
if I can get up north somehow, further north,
Mhm,
Uktaavik, somewhere up there,
mhm.
I don't know, that would be cool. Um,
Cooking at the
yeah,
top of the world, yeah,
yeah, I wanna cook at the top of the world. Let's go for that.
yeah. And then, let's see. One of the things I always ask my guests, this show is all about Alaskans and the amazing things that they're doing, their special area of expertise or experience. Who is someone that you would like to see on the show? Talk to me.
I think it would be great to see Chef Sean from the culinary program here in Fairbanks on the show. He has cooked all over Alaska and he's been doing it for a long time. And just his experience, his connections, um, what he's done for the program here in Fairbanks that is sending his students are cooking in some of the coolest places
Hmm.
all over. So just to hear from his perspective, I think that would be really neat. So yeah, Chef Sean, from UAF CTC culinary program.
All right, I'll look him up.
Yeah.
Well, Lizzie, I'm so thankful that you chose to take your morning and hang out with me and just share your story. It's such a privilege and an honor to be able to talk to you and just kind of catalog this journey that you're on and just to learn more about you as a person and what you're all about. And just in this short conversation, um, I think I've learned a lot that about you that is going to be applicable to my own life. You know, you go through hard times, lean on your community. When you find yourself alone, reach out to others and give back. And it's in those moments that you'll find either your purpose renewed or maybe a new purpose waiting
Yeah.
for you on the other side of that. So thank you for kind of going through that. Um, through this process with me and us learning those things about you. And I hope that my listeners get something out of it like I have today. So, Lizzie Hartman, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider supporting the show by joining me on social media. Each week, I share the most thought provoking, jaw dropping, or just interesting moments from conversations just like you heard today. I'm currently on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at The State I Am In Podcast. Engaging with me on social media by liking, sharing, reposting, and commenting what you think is a simple and cost free way to help other Alaskans and people everywhere find these conversations. You can also subscribe on YouTube and wherever you're listening to podcasts, whether that's Spotify, Apple, or iHeartRadio, wherever. Be sure to leave a review. These small actions really do make a huge difference. I'm committed to growing the state I'm in by sharing thoughtful, honest conversations and voices from all across Alaska. And if you or someone you know has a story that reflects Alaska beyond the postcards, gift shops, and tourist traps, I'd love to hear from you. Now, more than ever, I believe sharing the voices of our fellow Alaskans truly matters, and I will continue to do this work for as long as there are people willing to sit down and share meaningful conversations. Keep North Alaska, and thank you for joining me on The State I Am In.